In today's video, we have three major points that we want to discuss. The first point is my inspiration on why I wanted to make a YouTube video all about motorcycling. The second part is going to be about your comments and what you said on my last video. See, I want to engage with you as the viewer. I want to see what you think of my content, and then I want to read that out in response videos. And the third thing, if you get to the end with me on this one, we'll discuss that at the end because it's a little bit of a bonus thing. So let's get into why I started a YouTube video. Now, my decision to start a YouTube video solely comes down to the fact that I have a deep passion for everything motorcycling. I mean, I have it tattooed on my arm. I've been doing this since I was a small child. It's just something that I very, very much enjoy. And I thought YouTube is a great platform for me to share that with everyone else and hopefully get as many of you involved as possible. I started a motorcycle repair shop business about 3 years ago because I wanted to help people keep their bikes on the road. And of course, I wanted to turn my passion into a job and a business, which that's gaining, I'm only 3 years in, it's gaining pace. And to be able to spend my days fixing motorcycles, riding motorcycles, and then being able to talk, discuss and make videos around motorcycle culture and the things that go on is something that I very much want to be able to do. So far, my last video has done pretty well for a small channel. We're at over 7,500 views. I've got 70 comments, which for my little channel is just an absolute benchmark. On that note, thank you to all of you who subscribed and every single one of you that commented and liked the video. I greatly appreciate it. It allows my channel to gather some sort of pace, and hopefully it will allow me to start producing better content when you guys and girls give me feedback. So now I'd like to read some of the comments, and I'm going to respond. That bit there was scripted. This next bit is not scripted. I'm going to respond to you as the viewer. Although I've already read some of the comments, I've already responded. I'm going to respond to you as the viewer as I read the comment out, and I'm going to put it out there unscripted. And I'll try and do what other people do, where I'll put the name of the person up here, if that's okay. Kyle Stevens 7263. He simply put, as a lone biker, let me assure you, I don't like anybody. I kind of like that. That's a nice little comment. High Down Martin. I'm basically a bit of a greaser grebo with better, not bald tyres than 40 years ago. So he's saying he's got better tyres as opposed to bald tyres than they were 40 years ago. And still have a bit of hippie in the Royce Creasy vein. And a lone biker. 1 or 2 max companions, but mainly happy doing my own thing at my own speed. Stopping where I want, taking the route I want. I get that. Sometimes when you ride in a pack or you're riding with loads of other people, you've got to take into consideration the speed they want to ride out, the routes they want to take, when they want to stop to go to the toilet or get a cup of coffee. When you ride on your own, you can make your own decisions. That is something that I quite enjoy. Although riding in packs for me has given me some of the greatest feelings in the world when it comes to motorcycling and sharing them with other riders. Thanks for the comment. David, please excuse if I get your names wrong. You'll work out I'm an illiterate turd at some point. David Hugill 9614. Not bothered about labels or bike culture. Okay, so yeah, in my last videos I did mention about labels of bike, the bike culture and the labels that go with it. And in my opinion, not in everyone else's opinion, I think sometimes motorcyclists will categorise themselves, whether they mean to or not, by the way they ride the bikes they ride and the clothes they put on. And we almost all sort of find this genre of motorcycling that we seem to fit into. Not bothered about labels or bike culture. Just got a motorbike in the 1960s to go to college and work. Rode 125 Yamahas and 125 Hondas in the 70s. Didn't ride anything in the 80s, but still had a bike in the backyard. I have a small collection of British bikes, all on the road. That's pretty cool. A lot of people have collections of bikes, including myself, in the garage. Not all of them are on the road, I can assure you of that. Crowded and dangerous road these days, still alive and hope to remain so. Also like classic cars, steam trains, hill walking and photography. Got to 77, so don't want a label, thank you. Cheers, David. David, I completely appreciate that. I wasn't labelling anyone directly. Like I said, it's all about my experiences. I think that's quite brilliant that you're 77 years old, been riding since the 1960s. Hopefully I will get to 70 years old and I will be watching other people's YouTube videos, someone in their 40s like myself, and you know, I'll be responding to them. I also like steam trains. I think steam trains are really interesting things. I go to a lot of the country and fair shows around East Sussex in the summer, and they've got loads of steam vehicles there. They're just brilliant bits of engineering, well worth going and having a look at. John Anderson, 3412, this little island called England with a laughing face. See, I made the comment about England. This is going to respond to 2 or 3 of you at one point. I made a comment about England being a little island. Yes, I get the fact that England is actually part of the Great British Isles, whatever. It's part of Great Britain, okay? Geography was never my strong point. I took it for a year and I left and I went to do history because I preferred history. I much prefer history to geography. As long as I've got a map to tell me where I'm going, that's all I care about, geography. If I'm incorrect about England being its own separate island, although conjoined with Wales and Scotland, I apologise. But nonetheless, I see England as an island and it has borders, bordering Scotland and Wales. So that's how I see it. I'm not saying I'm correct, but clearly I'm not. Paul Rumbold, 22436. Love bikes, always have, always will. Nothing like it on the planet. Ride safe. I don't have a lot to respond to this apart from I completely agree. There's nothing better than putting my crash helmet on, starting my bike, going for a ride, and just genuinely enjoying being on my bike in my own space, doing my own thing in my own place. Special Android 16. I'm a two-wheel freedom junkie. I like that little comment. Two-wheel freedom junkie. Maybe we should get some t-shirts printed up with "We're all two-wheel freedom junkies." Who knows? That's kind of something we could look at. Thanks for the comments. Fugal Bird. I think this one's really interesting actually. I think that's how I pronounce it. This one I really enjoyed this comment. So, most motorcycle stories are told in Hindi, Indonesian, Mandarin, Vietnamese, and Thai. In comparison, very few are told in English, with or without accents. Some are told in German, French, Italian, and Spanish. The motorcycle is less popular in the UK than in almost every country in the EU. The UK has 18 motorcycles per 1,000 inhabitants and the EU has 45. Now, I've not fact-checked him. I'm not fact-checking any of you. If you know that's a fact, I'm happy with that. I'm not going to get into who's right, who's wrong on my YouTube channel. That makes it political and stops it being fun. I'm not into that. I also thought that your comment was really brilliant in the respect that you are dead right. When I said that most motorcycle stories are told in an American accent, I was referring to my experiences as a kid and all the videos and all the films that I watched. In truth, when we look at the motorcycle as a culture, it is far bigger in countries like India, Indonesia, Thailand, and where else did he put, and Vietnam, because they are massive motorcycling countries. In their country, they use the motorcycle for what it's meant to be used for, which is a form of transport that doesn't cost you huge amounts of money to get from A to B. And actually, it's a pretty reliable form of transport for most manufacturers anyway. Some manufacturers, which we won't mention, are, of course, not reliable. So, yeah, I hope that one day I can get my YouTube channel big enough that I can visit India and I can speak to some people in India or Vietnam or Indonesia about their culture and their motorcycling side of the culture. When I used to teach CBTs, there were people that had come from India and different countries that I would teach how to do CBTs, and I would regularly say to them, if you've survived riding in India, I've got nothing to teach you about riding on the roads in this country apart from the highway code. From my knowledge, India is one of the most dangerous places to ride or drive for that matter. So you're dead right in the respect that, from my perspective, I was talking about what I'd heard, what I'd watched as a child and throughout my years up to my 40s now. But in truth, you're 100% right. It is mostly told in languages like Hindi, Indonesian, Mandarin, and Vietnamese. I, I was absolutely taken back by that comment. It's a brilliant comment, and thanks for the information. Windmill John. Pretty good, thank you. I'm a lone biker, but don't poo-poo all groups. Always hated people fitting aftermarket noisy silencers or removing the baffles. I'm sorry, Windmill John, I do enjoy a very loud motorbike. My bike has a can that I've modified on it. It's still got the baffle in it because I don't want to get stopped by the police, but it makes a little bit of a burble. I don't mind a noisy bike, but everyone's their own. Loud pipes save lives, my bottom. I'd like to be more social. I guess it's just the way I am. Ridden for decades, do all my own bike maintenance. That's brilliant. Commuted by bike, ridden in the dirt and toured abroad, and a number of times. It's a shame bikes have become trinkets, but I guess families no longer need to rely on them to get to work. Yeah, lovely comment, quite brilliant. I did pigeonhole people a little bit in my last video. It wasn't sort of really directed to pigeonhole everyone. Again, it was my experiences with my friends that I grew up with, and the community, in fact, the community that I'm involved with, that I look at and talk to. And unfortunately, my experiences of a lot of people who go out and buy very fast race bikes with all the matching Alpine Star levers do usually end up coming a bit of a cropper because they think that they can ride them very quickly, or so that's happened in my friend circle. Not saying that is everybody or all of you, because it just isn't really, is it? I love the fact you do your own maintenance. I encourage as many people as possible to learn how to work on their bikes. I think back in the day, motorcyclists especially used to learn how to work on their bikes because you had to fix them at the side of the road. Even down to car drivers in the 40s, 50s and 60s used to get a maintenance book with it. And it's quite an important thing, I think, in order to do. You should know how to tighten your chain, and you should know how to do your tyre pressures as a basic minimum with your oil. Again, thanks for the comments. Theo Davis 8754. But this is a new one for the UK. I didn't know this, okay? To count as a pothole, it has to be 30 centimetres across with a 40mm vertical edge. Self-control and the right choice of bike in good condition helps. Stay in the moment. You won't need those shades in A&E. I think he's referring to my sunglasses in the crash show. One thing is, I was wearing my sunglasses that day. My visor actually has a pull-down set of like pull-down shades, but they're not quite dark enough in really bright days. Lovely comment. I didn't realise actually that there was that the local councils come up with, if it's not a certain size, it's not a pothole. I mean, who knew that the bureaucracy of this country would say that a hole isn't a hole and it has to be a certain size? It's shocking, really, that our local councillors think that they need to make some ideology up that it has to be a certain size in order for it to be a hole. A hole is a hole, and if my bike dips into it, it's a pain in the arse. Fix them. John Walker 9261. Tiny island called England, ? Get your geography right. England is part of the 9th largest island in the world. That is Great Britain. Yeah, it is, absolutely. I'm a huge patriot. I love England. I love Britain. I love our culture. I love our history. What's happening in the local news recently with how our culture is being destroyed, which I'm not getting into. This is a motorcycle channel. Absolutely pains me. On my way to work every day, there is a place called Judges Cards, and they fly a Union flag. And every day I salute the flag on my way to work. I think Britain is great. I think England is great. I think Scotland is great. Ireland is great. And I'm going to include Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland. I've been to both parts, and I think the people are lovely. And Wales is great. And actually, usually Scotland, I've only driven around Ireland a little bit, but I've driven around Scotland quite a bit, and I've driven around Wales quite a bit. I think you have much better roads than England does for scenery and for lovely sweeping bends, to be honest with you. Although in Wales, when I climbed Snowdon, some of those bends were not sweeping, they were quite lethal. This is my friend Tiny Lady Rider. We're getting to the end of them now. Very informative video. I enjoyed it, but I felt it came to an abrupt stop. Hope to see you soon, Maxi Pad. She's obviously referring to my comment about race bike riders and calling me a Maxi Pad. Cheers, Titch. Thanks for that, mate. The W65. Oh, sorry, Chris Lyle 8912. The W650 looks like a 60s copy of a BSA. Okay, a couple of people have mentioned this to me. They have named the BSA that it looks like. They obviously know more about it than I do. I always thought it looked like an old Triumph. I don't have any more to say. Thanks for the comment. But yeah, I will look at the BSA it's meant to look like, and maybe in the next video, or maybe in this video I'll overlay it and we'll have a look. Don't you mean biking started for you in the 2000s? Rose bikes started. Oh, sorry, Paulie Bob's dad. Okay, that's quite. Paulie Bob's dad. Don't you mean biking started for you in the 2000s? No, motorcycling started for me when I was 6 years old. I had my first bike when I was 6 years old, and I used to go on, when I was younger than that, in fact, I used to sit on the tank of my dad's GS750E, and he used to ride me up and down the back road of Lindy Drive where we grew up as kids. Yes, I got my first road bike when I was actually quite late to bikes. Money slowed me down. I was 18 when I bought my brand new KMX 125 from the local main dealer, Trevor Gedges in Silchester Road. But motorcycling started me from a very young age, even to the point where I forgot I'd even done this. My auntie presented me with a drawing that I did, which I think is meant to be a WL 45 or WA 45 Harley Davidson. I'll take a picture of it and put it up. And I was 8 or 9 years old when I drew that. It's the same age my son is now, so it goes back a long time for me, not in the noughties at all. I mean, I got on the road in the noughties, although I grew up in a council estate, which means you all know that I rode bikes on the road without my dad knowing. I have had many bikes since then and enjoyed sports bikes heyday in the late 90s. I completely agree with this. I think the best sport bikes ever made were in the 90s up into the early noughties. I think the new ones, don't get me wrong, the technology in them is brilliant, but they are soulless and quite boring. If I can't do a burnout on a bike because the traction control turns it off, you can take it back, stick it in the dealership. I don't want it, I'm not interested. Current bike is a 2016 Speed Triple great bike, and I like to do 2 tanks on a decent ride out, usually on my own. Why do we have to be classified as certain rider types riding different bikes? Focusing on why we are separate from each other, are we not all just bikers? I did reply to Paulie Bob's dad on this one. And no, you're right, actually, fundamentally, I nod to every motorcyclist. I even nod to scooters with L plates on, which a lot of my friends go, why do you do that? And my answer is they're still on 2 wheels, they're the next generation, let's encourage them. It really grips me out when you don't nod back at me. Like, as a rider, it really grips me out if you don't do the motorcycle nod. Don't be a dick. Little nod or little hands up. You know, one day we'll be riding past each other and your bike might have broken or my bike might have broken. We might actually need each other's help. That's how we build the community. My intention, again, in my last video was not to separate people. It was a drama created from experience. I'm not going to reiterate it too much more. The second episode will be out where I start to talk about the next part of the culture, or how I feel the next part of motorcycling phased into the 70s and stuff like that. I thought I'd do this video first. I thought it was quite interesting to read your comments. Thanks for the comment, Paulie Bob's dad. At Vincent Smith -I70, entertaining video, good content, good clear narrative, 10 out of 10, carry on. Again, thank you very much. That's a lovely comment. I don't have too much to say other than thank you very much. I'm doing my best. I don't have a degree in media, so everything I do, I'm trying to do my best. At Ian Day 38, can I claim to be a lone hipster race bike rider? Same bike for 28 years, love a bit of hipster retro and ride like a skilled lunatic. Absolutely you can. Claim to be a lone hipster race bike rider. I think you can claim to be whatever you want. I don't think we should be telling anyone that they can't. If you ride a race bike and you wear turned up jeans and brown boots, then I suppose you're a hipster race bike rider. Although, can someone give me the definition of a hipster? To me, the definition of a hipster is someone who tends to immerse themselves in an old way of life, an old way of thinking, and an old style fashion, and tends to like cafe racer bikes. I might be wrong. Someone is going to tell me, hopefully, and then I can read those out in another one. Twin Pot Racer, best of luck with your channel. Thank you very much. Roy Donovan 9063. Yeah, it seems you know the Bobby Moore can relate being an older biker. I've got to ask him, please, Roy Donovan, I don't know what you mean by the Bobby Moore. Is that slang? I'm only 40. If you've been riding since the 60s, I'm guessing your age here, I don't know at all. But you might be able to alleviate that one a little bit before me, or tell me what that means. I'd be interesting. I know quite a lot about motorbikes. I've read a lot of motorbike books. I quite like to read motorbike culture. This one was nice. I had a lovely conversation with this gentleman at XL250Mon5. Just England. I live in Wales and a biker for 48 years. I've already had a lovely conversation with this chap, and no, it's not just England. Wales and Scotland and Ireland are definitely in there. And hopefully so will the European-based countries and the continent of Europe eventually. I love Wales. I recently was in Wales climbing Snowdon with my best friend, and I cannot wait to go back to Wales and hopefully ride my bike around Wales. I think Wales has some of the greatest roads in the UK with some of the most beautiful scenery. It is let down by the fact it's very wet, so I can put wet weather gear on and I can still ride. Hopefully me and XL250 will arrange for me to go up, meet him, shake his hand, and maybe ride. He can show me around and we can have a ride around Wales, and he can show me his places that he likes to ride and get a cup of coffee, because I think that would be a brilliant thing to do. On that, I believe, if I've missed any, I'm really sorry, but it's only showing me that amount of comments. That can't be right. Let's have a look. I swear. Here we go. Yes, there is more. This one's a big one. At Paul Avenda 25. No, I think I've read that one. No, I haven't read that one. He mentions the stupid beard. I have a stupid beard. What's wrong with a stupid beard? You know what they call men without beards, don't you? Women. Paul Avenda 2537. This is a big one, this one. Rockers and ton-up boys, BSAs, Vincents, Nortons, our British 1%ers, adventure bikes, Isle of Man TT. Where are they in this piece? Racers don't all end up dead. No, they don't. And I hope they don't. I don't want any motorcycle to end up dead. I lost as I'm making this video only the other day, a customer had his bike booked in to come and be repaired and was killed on his way home, on his way to my workshop. So no, I don't want anyone dying on motorcycles. I don't want that to happen. It was just a narrative, okay? And the analogy used is crass and distasteful. I am quite crass and distasteful. I bought my first Triumph 50 years ago, Kawasaki 40 years ago, then a BMW, then a Harley's. Now, of which course? BMWs again. Which of the quoted categories did I fit into? None. I ride bikes. Back in the day, Lewis Levers and Belstaffs were the only choices. Now there's an Amid, Condura, Laminates, God knows what else. Did the hipsters regenerate the British bike industry? I don't think so. I do think they helped. I think things like the hipster movement, what's it called? The Bike Shed MC. I think Vicky and Von Dutch made a massive difference in reviving an industry that I think had become quite stale and boring. And I do think motorcycling had become quite stale and boring when you look at some of the models of bikes that were being brought out, and they're soulless, uninspiring. decors and decals and designs. And I do think the hipster movement had a massive play in reviving motorcycles, almost as much as I think the American motorcycle scene had a massive influence in our culture in this country in the 70s with choppers. I just think that's just my opinion. Where are we? Getting my old trumpet to start and stopping my Harley leaking oil didn't feel too hip. Bikes got more reliable and safer. Silk scarves and Bronx jackets are for relics like me, and the marketing sucked in the new generation. I was a freak back in the day because I had tats and a bike. Now it's the norm, and a good thing too, apart from the stupid beards. Yes, here we go, there's the stupid beards. So I completely agree. I'm not old enough to have been alive, obviously, and ridden motorbikes in the 40s, 50s and 60s up into the 70s, where if you had tattoos, long hair and you rode a motorcycle, you may not have been allowed in certain places. They may have refused you, turned you away, thought you were some sort of thug, didn't really accept you as a part of society, mainly because obviously there are certain subcultures of motorcycling that don't want to be a part of society. I'm, in fact, one of those people. I don't really want to be a part of mainstream society. I think mainstream society is a waste of our time. I don't enjoy it in any way, shape or form. I do enjoy the subculture of motorcycling. I'm envious that that was your generation. I was born 20 years too late, in my personal opinion. I should have been around for those things as well. And I've got some bikes that might leak a bit of oil and might be a pain in the arse every now and then when it comes to sorting their carbs out. And I do sort of think that is part of the fun. Okay, I've got an injection bike for my daily. I've got a Triumph Speed Triple 955i for my daily. I go out, I put the key in the ignition, I hit the start button, it comes into life and I ride it. But I do very much enjoy my my carburetted bikes, my GPZ 1100, my Mrs. GPZ 400 and VN 800 and stuff like that. I think Steve Bernard 42... I don't know if I've read this one. I'll read it again just in case. Steve Bernard 42. Interesting. I guess I'm the lone rider sort, as I just enjoy, well, riding. I like your style. Though be more accurate with your references. You've earned a sub from this old cantankerous gear. Well, thank you very much, Steve Bernard 42. I will try to be more accurate with my references. Obviously, I'm not referencing nothing on this. I'm trying to respond to everyone's comments as I read them. I've obviously liked everyone's comments and I have read and replied to some of you, but I'm trying to do it as fluid and as natural as possible. I want to come across actually, and I want you to all see who I am as a human being and not think that I'm just someone trying to script everything, and this isn't all scripted. It will be edited to get rid of the bits, get out the bits that I don't want to do. Andy Smith. I started watching this and lost interest. I'm a lone biker, always have been. I'll take a few more videos before I start to consider if there's any chance I might like you enough to subscribe. I just replied brilliant to that. I think that's brilliant. Do you know what? I think that's a fair. I don't just subscribe to someone because they've made one video that I've watched. I think the beauty of YouTube is it's not rammed down our throats, unlike mainstream media and mainstream TV, where when I was a kid you had 4 channels, and some of you watching this probably only had 1 or 2 channels. I don't want to watch what people want me to watch. I want to watch what I want to watch. And Andy, I really appreciate that, and hopefully I can give you enough information and make it entertaining enough that you do to give me a subscribe. We've read that one. Definitely read that one. That was quite brilliant. This one I thought was yes. I don't think I've read this one. His handle's quite low. At Trailingar, it does not tell me all your handle. I'm sorry about that. I'm not very good with technology in the respect. I'll get there. I'll get better. If you do leave a comment on the videos, if your handle's quite difficult, if you could sign it with just your first name or something like that to make it easier to read, because you can tell I'm a bit of an ignorant dickhead, and trying to read some of these handles is quite difficult. Very entertaining, but not very accurate. accuracy is not what I was going for. Opinion was more I was going for. But hopefully I can make them more accurate. If I do something about genuine history, like the history of a manufacturer or something like that, which I'd quite like to do, I will make sure all of my facts are researched first. Today's lifestyle scene has become a PC safety conscious, money driven fashion parade. I cannot agree anymore. You completely have my agreement on that one. It absolutely is. Used to be a lot more individualistic and fun. Hardly any bikes in the 90s. There were millions. Where I grew up, there wasn't a lot. Most people were driving Escorts and stuff like that in the town that I grew up in. So as a kid, there were bikes, but there wasn't nowhere near as many motorcycles on the road as I see today in the area that I grew up in. We had the Mayday run in Hastings, East Sussex. We still have the Mayday run, and it used to excite me to my core when it was on, because I knew that there would be the minimum of 5,000 to 10,000 motorcyclists that would turn up, sometimes even more, and I couldn't wait to get down to the town and see that. So for me, where I grew up, there wasn't a massive amount of motorcycles around at the time. I know there would have been in other places, and I also know that the 90s was a great culture for race bikes. It was the race rep era for many, but plenty of other styles too. Yeah, absolutely. The Paris-Dakar had set the scene for the rise of adventure bikes. Yep, I never got to see the Paris-Dakar as a kid. It wasn't on the TV. I had a father that would be adamant that there was no sport allowed on the TV whatsoever. So my brother liked football. He didn't get to watch that, which didn't bother me, but it means I didn't get to watch motorsport either. So I didn't get to see any of those things. Unfortunately, because I know the Paris-Dakar was meant to have been a phenomenal thing, and I have watched reruns on YouTube and other programs about it. Had set the scene for Florence of Arabia. Lawrence of Arabia is a bit of a British legend in the First World War, and I think calling Florence of Arabia is a bit mean. Was neither the start nor the inspiration of the UK biker scene. Again, I think Lawrence of Arabia had a huge part to play in motorcycling. I get the fact that he may have been a well-to-do human being that comes from a background that maybe not the same as mine, but he was a biker. There's no doubt about that. He was just a biker with money. Some of you might find this a little bit controversial. It would be like saying that just because Henry Cole was born into money, that his love of motorcycles and his affair with it isn't real. I think Henry Cole is very much a motorcyclist in his core. It's something that he cannot help but do and desires it. He was just fortunate enough to be born to a well-to-do family. And when I pigeonholed motorcyclists like I did in my first video, I suppose we could pigeonhole some of those wealthier people that do it and have got money to buy the bikes, but we as the ordinary person may not see them in the same respect as we see the bloke next door who goes to work on the train yard riding his X up or whatever. But I think they are the same. I think in truth we're all the same. Some of us just got deeper pockets. The need to get to work and the glamour of the racetrack were the main drivers, in my opinion. I think the racetrack was a massive driver for motorcycling. I think ever since the dawn of motorcycling, people have strapped an engine to a bicycle frame. Someone or two people went, bet mine's faster than yours. No, mine's faster than yours. And that was it, they were off. So yeah, I think for that reason, there is, I think the racetrack definitely did it. And the need to get to and fro from work, obviously, Harley Davidson and some of the American companies, they used to have those cross-country races in the 10s, 20s, 30s and 40s to prove that their vehicles could keep going and going and going. Matt Dog 1982, I'm with you. The previous generation to me, now in their 50s, all spoke of riding motocross when they were younger. Let me assure you, no one in my town could afford to do motocross. No one could afford to do. Very few kids in my town did motocross. We used to go and knock on the old boy's door, and he'd have a Honda C90 or something, and we'd knock on the door, save up our paper round money for 4 or 5 weeks ago. Can we buy your bike for 30 quid, mate? And 9 times out of 10, they'd sell it to us. And then we'd run them until they blew up or someone nicked them. Usually because someone nicked them. Let's face it, C90s don't really break, do they? They're phenomenal. Well, I believe I've read out all the replies. If I've missed you, I'm really, really sorry. And if I have missed you, please let me know in the comments and say, Chris, you didn't read out my comment. Not very happy about that. I am genuinely very grateful for all of your comments. and I've enjoyed reading all of them, and I hope I'm going to get more comments on this one, more stuff for me to read, more stuff that I can bounce off of and I can learn from, because I don't know everything, and nor do I think I know everything. Right, so if you're still with us and I haven't bored you to death reading out other people's comments about my video, here's what I'd like you to do as a viewer to engage with the channel and make it as interactive and interesting as possible. It's very easy for me to come up with a video idea, make it, stick it on YouTube and hope it does well, or hope you enjoy it. I want to entertain as many of you as possible, and I want to spend as much of my time riding and travelling and doing exciting things on motorcycles as possible, including building them, fixing them, stripping them down, whatever it is. So to make this, the bonus part of this is I want to make this your channel. I want you to put in the comments what you'd like to see on the channel, whether you'd like to see genuine history where I go and I have to, you know, I have to look at the history of a motorcycle rider, and I've got to read some books, and I've got to go and visit some museums, and I've got to come back to you with some facts and some figures to do with a motorcycle rider, famous motorcycle rider, or motorcycle production, or whether it's you want to see me restore a motorbike in my workshop. I'll have to work on my audio. The workshop's really difficult to get the audio correct. You know, I want you guys to tell me what you want to see on the channel so it's as interactive as possible. Of course, I would like you all to remember that this is funded by me and my pocket, and I don't want to be in trouble with my missus. Don't let me get in trouble with my missus by saying, I want you to go and buy a bike and restore a BSA Gold Star. That can't happen at this point in the video. So all of the stuff that I need you to tell me to do, or suggestions I want you to give me, needs to be of a reasonable remit. Some of it, of course, if you give me a good project, may take a lot of planning. I may have to get a lot of other people involved in order to make the project move on. But I want to make this channel as fun, as engaging, and as entertaining for you guys and girls out there who watch this. I have a few friends that got a few other channels, which hopefully I can do some things with. I'd like to end the video and thank my partner. I thank Tony for lending me her studio, her nail studio, to do this video in, because my workshop audio is terrible. If you've seen my other videos where I did motorcycles and people, you'll know that it's there. So if you could pop over to Instagram and find Deadly Acrylics and give them a like and a thank you for letting me use the studio, because the audio is better, the setting is better. I'd greatly appreciate that. If you enjoyed the video, please give us a like, give us a subscribe, and definitely make sure you leave those comments so I've got something that I can actually engage and talk to you all about. And I'll see you in the next one.